Let's go over to our man, Mr. John Jameson. Bottom line is that when we're talking markets,
volatility.
We're talking volatility. Since Tommy and I have been on the air, you know, Bitcoin had hit 11,434. We're at 10,719 right now. It's given the Nasdaq a run for some volatility out here this morning.
It is.
John Jameson, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, morning, Tom. Morning, Tommy.
Morning.
I'm good.
So, quite a day we chose, man. New highs every day. It seems like we could bring you on any day and would have new highs in the market.
The madness continues, yeah, absolutely. I know. It's come off quite a lot, though, as you just said, yeah, just recently, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we look 11,400 down to 10, you know, there's $700 in the span of a blip, man.
Right.
But quite, we were at, you know, I was chatting with you yesterday, John, and we were chatting, and it was at 10,000, then said 10,700, and then said 11,400 today, and then it's back down 10,695 as we speak. So talk to us, maybe a little bit of the listeners, because, of course, one of the biggest questions anybody has, ourselves included, is at these prices, you know, are we in a bubble? I mean, literally, the news, which was amazing, I knew we were having John on today. I had Bloomberg on, checked over in CNBC, and everything was showing highlights of people being like, it's a bubble, it's a bubble, it's a bubble. And instinctively, you know, you might think so, but what's your take on what's kind of going on in the market right now, John?
Well, that's a great question. And as expected, when Bitcoin hits 10,000, the media goes into a frenzy around it, of course.
Yes.
And my opinion is Bitcoin in a bubble? Who knows? But that's not the real question. Everybody is looking at Bitcoin. Maybe some of you or some of your listeners are looking at it and going, how can this have happened? Where did this come from? And maybe they're secretly wanting it to go back down again.
That's for sure. Yeah. I would. Yep. No doubt.
We're traders. That's what you. Yeah.
You know, if you're not in, you might be thinking you've missed it. And what I'm saying is that that's not the case at all. And to answer the question, if I can just a quick recap.
Yes.
Think of the media is using Tulip Mania as a great example. So let's use that here. So with Tulip Mania in the 1630s, the Dutch were bidding up the price of tulip bulbs to literally crazy prices. And 1636, I think it was, one of the top bulbs, the Semper Augustus, hit 2,500 florins, and it had doubled, okay, in price. And then, when everyone says it can't go any higher, it doubled again. Now, after that second doubling, of course, we all know what's happening. We all know what happened. It collapsed.
Okay.
And that's what people are using. They're using that analogy now with Bitcoin. So there's a little issue with that, though. And the issue is the smart people of the day weren't looking at the price of tulips. They were looking at the Dutch East India Company and trying to acquire shares in that.
I see.
And so this is where the fortunes were made. So whilst everybody is concentrating on the price of tulips, smart money or big money is silently moving in to a new way of doing business. So the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company basically owned half the world. They controlled half the world's trade, entire countries. They had a mercantile army. And if that sounds quite similar to maybe what China's doing right now, yeah, it is. If you think of India and the British East India Company, and then look at China and Africa today, you see quite a lot of similarities. So to get back to this, the point I'm trying to make is that everybody's concentrating on Bitcoin, but I think people who are doing that are missing the point. Because the point, just like the East India Company was a new way of doing business in the 17th century, this is a new way. Blockchain technology, which is behind Bitcoin, is the new way of doing business now.
So it's kind of like figuring out what blockchain is going to, where it's going to be, right? You know, what's the next business, right?
Exactly. So the key to this is to look at these, because it's not just one blockchain, of course. There are many different types.
Okay.
And they all have different services and purposes. And the key is to look at where the money is moving behind them, who are backing them, and where you can expect that to go. So, for example, if a lot of traders are looking at this market and they don't truly understand what's going on, would it surprise you to know that in the last 7 days, it's actually been possible to buy a Bitcoin for $2,500?
I'd say that would surprise almost anybody.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Sure. Well, it has been possible to do that. And so, for example, if you were buying specific coins Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, $2,500 then would now be, again, it's come off a little this morning, but as of early this morning, that would have been around about just under $12,000.
So how do we do that? Let's go.
Volatility, baby.
Well,
You want volatility, right?
Am I saying it's easy? No.
That's a good secret.
So you see, everyone's looking at the price of Bitcoin and everyone's comparing it to the US dollar.
Yes.
So what you want to think about is changing that to thinking in Satoshis and thinking about which tokens, coins, currencies, blockchains are out-accelerating the move in Bitcoin. And believe it or not, there are 2 or 3 coins that have great potential.
Wow.
And when you say Satoshi, explain what's a Satoshi? Just I understand it, but for people listening.
Sure, that's the minimum unit of movement in the cryptocurrency universe. So it's just like a pip. It's just like a pip in the foreign exchange.
Yeah,
okay, so think of it like that.
Because you don't. I was just gonna say you don't have to buy everyone. If you don't know Bitcoin, you don't have to buy a Bitcoin. You know, when you buy a Bitcoin, you're buying 0.00,
Yes,
right? You know, and that's where you
yeah.
can, you know, so just as people getting into it.
That's a Satoshi.
Right. And what is it, 1,000th, John? I forget what decimal a Satoshi is of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's 100 millionth of a Bitcoin.
100 millionth. That's
Wow.
yeah.
It's a tiny, tiny amount. So yeah, it's a tiny amount. So if you think like that, then it becomes, I'm not saying it's common, but certainly in the last 7 days, in fact in the last 5 days, $2,500 in the right 2 coins buys you a Bitcoin today.
That is wild, man.
It is.
So it's a brave new world out here. That's the bottom line. And, you know, it's great you're educating us and getting us heads wrapped around it, because it's going to take a bit to understand.
I believe in it as well. You know,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is one thing that's the attention grabber, the headline grabber, and you know, any major news media outlet, they're in the business of making headlines, and their copywriters this morning are definitely writing copy about Bitcoin, right? I mean, of course, what else are you writing? You wouldn't be a good copywriter if you weren't.
Well, yeah.
But that's not the nature of the beast that might be underlying potentially what
And you know, John, they had that Coinbase, you know, get-together in New York yesterday, and one of the Bloomberg writers is saying, you know, he had been there last year, the year before, and he says it was all hoodie sweatshirts, and they showed pictures of it, and you got all the wingtips and the
elites are here.
Suits. Yeah, exactly,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So why don't you stay with us, John? All right, we'll go to the break, and we can talk a little bit more when we come back.
Great stuff. Fantastic.
Awesome. Stay right there, folks. John Jameson, Tom and Tommy O'Brien. We want to hear from you. Our phone number is 877-927-6648. You have the Dow Industrials up 100. NASDAQ is down 56. S&P's trading up 4. We're going to be right back, folks. Welcome back, folks. Dow right now up 101. You get the NASDAQ down 57. S&P's are up 3. We are talking with our man, Mr. John Jameson. We are talking markets. We're talking the new frontier.
And as we're talking, man, Bitcoin is jumping around. It was just at 10.4. Now it's at 10.560. So, John, I know we've been chatting, and I think we're going to try, you're putting together a service, the Jameson letter, to kind of talk about what you talk about on a daily basis and diving into the world of cryptocurrencies. And tell us a little bit about what you're thinking maybe next month when you get into this and you start this service with, you know, in this arena of all the cryptocurrencies, kind of what you're going to be talking about.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big problems that people have, one of the barriers that people have, existing traders have, is just getting their heads around everything and trying to get everything into context, because most of the things that are explained online are explained technically. And the ones that aren't explained technically, it's difficult to tie everything together. So that's what the Jameson letter will do.
That is so cool.
It is, man, because I know it. John and I have chatted for literally hours because you can just get into these, and I want to know about it, just like any trader. And there's a lot to learn in terms of the technical aspect and how that applies to what's going on in each one.
Well, you know what's so cool, too? This is even more than trading. For us, it's great trading, but it is going to be so big.
It is.
I mean, like, the person on the street wants to know, you know, what is it, right? I mean, you don't have to even be trading it to understand it, because it's going to affect people's lives, right?
And I think what's great is there's an informational gap right now.
Yeah, there is. It's huge. It's huge.
And that's correct. There's a huge vacuum, absolutely.
So tying that in together with the other cryptocurrencies, John, you know, we hadn't even touched on Ethereum yet, and that's, you know, big player, of course, of what's going on. But if you could speak a little bit about, and you kind of did, talking about, you know, the other cryptocurrencies and how they've reacted to Bitcoin, but how you'll kind of speak about that in the letter and how it's not just going to be a Bitcoin kind of service, because that's not where the market is.
Right.
You know?
That's right. The letter's really concentrated on blockchain. Think of Bitcoin right now as the gatekeeper.
Okay.
You know, as you say, there is an information vacuum. The average person, or most traders, they don't really understand the process.
Right.
But you've still got to go from fiat currencies, dollars, euros, pounds, into Ethereum or Bitcoin, and then you've got to trade it into something else. And you typically can't do that at one place. So you need an exchange, for example, to get out of fiat currency into Bitcoin.
Okay.
Then you need to transfer that to a trading exchange, and then typically the trading exchanges don't allow you to transfer your Bitcoin balances back into fiat currency, so you have to transfer them back to where they came from, and then transfer them back into fiat currency. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why we talk for hours. Seriously,
This
no,
is
go
cool.
ahead. Yeah.
This is crazy. Okay. In a good way. I'm
right.
just,
No, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What I think, well, not what I think. What I'm going to put together is basically a series of how-to videos. So I'm not just going to go on there with a newsletter and say, buy this, do that, do this, because even the sentence, you know, what coins or tokens, most people can go, well, I don't know what a token. What's the difference between a coin and a token?
Yeah.
Sure.
Buy it how, right? Would it? Yeah.
Right.
No, definitely.
Right.
Exactly. So this starts at the beginning, and it's how to get money into the cryptocurrency world.
Yes.
How to manage it, how to move it around, how to have the confidence to move it around quickly, how to protect it, and also, you know, this is the Wild West. This is the beginning of something, and it's the technology behind it. I've got a computer science background, and that's why I realized how the opportunities here with the blockchain. And so with this, it's really, most people just get confused because it's not a one-stop shop. So it's basically a plain English guide to how to read this market, because the main points of it are you can short-term trade it for sure, but also there are some opportunities right now for ordinary people to get in at prices that really are not available in the stock market. You see,
Yes.
the stock market is there and designed to make the owners of a company rich, not you rich. And so let's use Facebook as a classic example. If you wanted to buy Facebook, you had to wait to the IPO on the 18th of May 2012.
Right.
And let's just say you got filled on the open. So let's just say you bought 500 shares and you got filled.
Yep.
And you loved it. You loved the product. You loved it. So you bought it. Well, you did pretty well. And even though you had to endure a bit of pain for a few years while it got its advertising revenues up to the pricing levels.
Right.
You're sitting right now, as of last Friday, on about a 380% return. So what if today a lot of companies are coming to market late in their cycle and making it harder than ever to get hold of something. And so what if you could have bought Facebook in 2009, but not pay $38 for it, pay $3.51?
Right. Right.
Well, now you'd be sitting on a 5,113% return.
Yeah. Big difference. Right.
Massive difference. And my point is, in order to do that, you would have had to have at least $1 million, maybe $2 million to have a seat at the table. Now, you can get into, if you understand or have a good understanding of blockchain technology and the way that basically it is a new layer think of it simply as this. The internet right now is dumb. It can't do anything. It works by copying. If you can think of blockchain as a layer that's just engulfing that, encapsulating it, literally being built on top of it, that makes the internet smart. And if you think about the transition from your 2002 dumb smartphone to an iPhone, that's the difference this is going to make. And it's a question of the killer app. What's the killer app for this?
Okay.
Right now, years ago, I was around in 1986, starting a fledgling IT consultancy business. And the killer app for PCs was a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The killer app for, I was setting up emails in 1992 when you had to write code to actually dial into a service. Then 1993, the killer app for every man, Mosaic browser. And
Right.
we know what happened. We know what happened after that.
It's so wild, John, is that Lotus 123, right? Mitch had an office 2 doors down from my office. There was,
Wow.
I remember when there was 3 people, and it says that was that crazy, man. That was 1982, I think, but it was.
Wow.
And that changed everything, man.
Sure.
You know.
It did.
Yeah.
So the Jameson letter, really what we're doing is we're discussing blockchain technology. We're discussing the players behind, these blockchains. Is a coin that's going to help you, have your pet groomed going to make it, or is a technology that's going to use a token that has the ability to overtake and be the market leader and beat Ethereum to the spot? Then those are the sort of things we'll be talking about.
We are gonna get so smart.
That's right, man.
I love
got
it.
a lot to learn.
No,
Seriously.
totally. It's so exciting, man, because it's so brand new. Do you know what I mean?
And
yeah,
you know, as traders, investors, we like a little
Right.
volatility, you
Oh,
know, and
yeah.
and just like John talks about the opportunities there, where it's pretty staggering when you look at Facebook. For all they've done well, you're still only up
Yeah, exactly.
380%.
Exactly.
They've basically crushed the world
Right.
in every aspect.
And when there's new things like this is when the opportunities are there. That's the bottom line. 2 or 3 years from now, it's not going to be opportunity like you're going to be able to give
Right.
us through this letter.
John,
You know what I mean?
thank you so much. We're going to have you on again sometime soon, and we'll be talking about next month, that beautiful letter. We look forward to it, man.
That's great. Thanks for having me.
Have a
Okay,
great
guys.
one, John.
Okay.
Stay right there, folks. Come right back.